Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here. Internet's busy, you know who it is. And it's time for a review of the new M.E.D, Blu and Madlib record, Bad Neighbor. This is a collaborative trio, a rapper-producer trio, and this is their first time coming together with a full-length album, but each of them has their own respective discographies and followings and standout records, and they've worked before on previous projects in some capacity, like on albums such as Good to Be Home, UCLA, Mad Villainy, The Unseen. Previous to this album, these three guys released an EP, the Burgundy EP, sort of put out similar to how Madlib was releasing little singles and EPs with Freddie Gibbs prior to the release of Pinata last year, kind of testing the waters of that collaborative dynamic. And now, just like those preliminary Freddie Gibbs and Madlib EPs, we are getting a full-length Blu M.E.D Madlib record. It is 15 tracks of muffled, druggy, left coast, left field hip-hop. With a pretty impressive feature list, we have people like Haji Beats of Odd Future fame, Jametta Rose and Anderson .Paak, who are coming up as fantastic singers in their own right. Stone's Throw connects, such as Aloe Blacc. We have Dame Funk, as well as Mayor Hawthorne. Other names you might know or remember, like Oh No, Frank Nitt, also Fonte, and we have the metal-fingered man himself, M.F. Doom, appearing on this thing too. Now, considering all of the names attached to this project, I had no reason not to go into this thing excited. However, I was quickly reminded of why exactly some of the recent releases from M.E.D and Blu just didn't really hit that hard for me. The most frustratingly awful thing about this album is, without question, the vocal mixing. And they are stashed way behind a lot of the musical elements of the instrumentals on this record. Sadly, this makes it really easy just to kind of let the songs fall into the background and just kind of let the beats fill up the air and just focus simply on those. But even if you wanted to hone in on what's being said lyrically, it kind of becomes an impossibility because a lot of the subtle bits of language get eaten up in the beats. Listening to these songs again and again and again, I just kind of found myself saying, what? Huh? Speak up. Please? What? And what kind of makes this even more irritating is that some of the features as well are buried, and some of the other ones are actually up higher in the mix vocally. It sounds like MF Doom is actually much louder than a lot of the other people, including the people whose names are on this project, a lot of the other people on this album, which was just weird. Why couldn't everyone have been that loud so that they could be audible? As far as the instrumental side of this album goes, Madlib does bring a lot of cool, obscure, fun little loops. He is the loop digger. And the percussion is super on point a lot of the time, but again, the mixing sort of becomes an issue. The bass is oppressive on this thing, to the point where it is muffled and kind of hard to read, sort of unintelligible. And maybe it only feels weird because the bass is sort of one of the many things in these instrumentals that's drowning the vocals out. Maybe if the bass wasn't so loud, wasn't so in your face, the vocals would be a little bit more readable. But still, there are tracks on here like Burgundy Whip where the bass does feel so muddled and just fat and loud and overcompressed to the point where you can't even really read any sort of coherent groove out of what's going on in this song, bass-wise. So even though the beats have this lo-fi charm that reminds me of Madlib's Loot Pack days, I think instrumentally this album is a little sloppy, messy, and kind of shoddy. The mixing is just so off, man. It's just so flat. It's so muddy. Dame Funk's appearance on the song Peroxide, where it seems like he's delivering these sort of airy, ethereal, robotic talk box vocals, sounds awful. And it doesn't really sound like it's any fault of his or anything like that. With a better, clearer, just more robust mix, I think it could have gone over better. And on the few moments here where this album does deliver some vocals that are pretty audible, it doesn't even wow me. Like on the song Get Money, it's sort of ironic that one of the most intelligible tracks on this entire album has the least creative concept. Sometimes when a hook is presented with a guest singer, such as when Aloe Blacc appears on the record, his singing along with these chipmunk sample vocals just does not sound that great. Again, it's another very muddy, weakly performed moment on this record. This album to me just sounds like a super weak demo tape. Yeah, just kind of one big sloppy, disappointing rap demo. Just really let down by this thing, unfortunately. I can't even say there was anything on this record that I really loved. I was really indifferent toward much of what was here, and when I wasn't feeling that way, I was just frustrated by the awful vocal mixing and just the general sound and production of this thing, unfortunately. It's just such a weird, novice, and I guess unnecessary thing to really be holding this album back as much as it does, especially given the reputation of the names on this project, and yet the sound and the mixing issues on this thing persist from one track to another, to the point where I don't even really feel like I can properly evaluate things like the lyrical quality of this thing. I don't know. I'm feeling a strong 4 to a light 5 on this. Transition. Have you given this record a listen? If you have, are you as pink as me? I'm pretty pink right now. And if you have given this record a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was the vocal mixing not really that big of a deal for you? And why? Anthony Fantano, M.E.D, Blu, Madlib, forever.